Imagine you're a guard under the Templar's paycheck. One moment you just noticed that one of your coworkers is lying dead on the ground. You never heard a thud, no sounds of struggle, no scream of pain. All you noticed was death. Now you realize everyone around you is dead. You're the only one left. And then, as you close your eyes to blink, darkness. This is what it would be like for the guards that Arno would kill if he was never seen. They would just be horrified of the dilapidated scenes they would witness, and then they would inevitably fall to the assassin's blade. And so this made me think, would it be possible to complete AC Unity's main story without Arno being seen? So I opened Unity and decided to answer this question. So before we start the run, let's talk about the rules. The number one rule is to never be seen, and by never being seen, I mean that guards can never lay their eyes on Arno. So even if the SSI meter just turns yellow, which is not really considered detected by the game mechanics, that will be a violation of this rule. So if I get SSI meters that turn yellow, I have to reload to the latest checkpoint and try to find a way to avoid being seen. Of course, because this is Assassin's Creed, scripted moments where Arno gets detected will be allowed, but only during scripted moments where the cutscene really shows that Arno was supposed to be detected. Otherwise, if it is during the usual gameplay moments, then it's a no-go. Second rule is that I'm only gonna be wearing Arno's basic gear. Now, there are a couple of reasons why I made this rule, such as for additional challenges and stuff, but the most important thing is that I will be replaying the game via the progress tracker. I won't be restarting a fresh save since I don't want to erase my 100% file of Unity. Now, I know I can just save the file in a different folder to preserve it, but I don't really want to risk it. This is like my 4th or 5th 100% file, so I don't really want to look for those glyphs again or collect those ribbons. And so because of this, I would then start the game with max skills and tools. So I thought using just the basic gear would be a good way to balance the run. Third, we will only focus on the main story missions and objectives, so optional objectives can be ignored. Another thing to note is that this is not a ghost run, so I will be killing enemies to make sure I am not seen. With all those set, let's start. So we begin this run as Little Arno. We chase after Elise and this leads us to a courtyard where we have to steal an apple. Unfortunately, because this is a tutorial mission, there is really no way to avoid being seen here. Unless I guess if a game-breaking bug exists that allows you to do that. But I won't be doing that for this run. And so we accept our fate and let that guard see us. We then proceed with the story and witness the sad fate of Mr. Dorian. Fast forward, we are now adult Arno and we have to chase this guy who took our watch. I think we can skip this part a bit since there is really no sneaking involved here. I just chased down and tackled the target. Then I had to lose them, which I did by just circling around the building. After I lost them, I then went back home. The next mission then begins where I had to chase after De La Serre to bring him a letter. This led me in front of the palace where I had to sneak in and find De La Serre. My first few attempts were failures. I tried using social stealth to move from one group of crowd to another. However, when I am in between crowds, the guards are able to see me and the SSI meter turns yellow. So this meant I can't go that way. After looking around, I realized that I could climb this post and then jump into the wall without being seen. I then explored the area a bit until I found a spot where there were no guards nearby and I could safely climb to the roof. I then walked on the roof without resistance and eventually got inside the palace. While inside the palace, I blended with the crowd and looked for De La Serre. However, when I found him, I got speared through a door and into a forced combat scenario. So I engaged in a fight against the two brothers. After winning the fight, I had to escape from the guard who heard all the commotion. This led to a forced detection scenario, so all I had to do was escape. However, the first time I did this, I made the wrong turn and got seen by some idle guards. While I was already seen by the other guards, I decided to reload since these guards were not supposed to see me. To avoid other guards, I decided to just climb up one of the nearest buildings. While I did get shot a couple of times, I managed to escape and complete the mission unseen. The next mission has us going to another palace. I had to sneak in again without being seen. Similar to the previous mission, going in between crowds would lead guards to see me, so I had to go find a different route. The best one I found was just to climb up the nearest wall and make my way to an open window. Once inside, all I had to do was really wait for guards to move and then sneak my way past them. This is again another tutorial level and there is really no challenge here, so getting past this part unseen was easy. Eventually, I found Elise and we did some things. I then entered another level where I had to do the waiting game again. After that, I found the lacer dead and got knocked out by the guards. When I woke up, I was a prisoner. I then met Belek, who trained me into becoming an assassin after finding out about my gene tree. A few months later, the revolutionists are bombing the prison. This was now an opportunity for us to escape. Now for this mission, every encounter was actually a force detection moment. We're basically running away from guards who have seen us escape from our cell. So there is nothing really interesting going on here related to the challenge, so let's go to the next mission. For this next one, we are with Belek and are now a full-fledged assassin. We have orders to find something. The first objective we get is to assassinate 3 guards. This was actually easy and I was able to do it without getting seen. I then sabotaged the bell and assassinated another guard who appeared after a cutscene. Now for the next part of the mission, we again have a force detection moment where guards see Arno. I did try to reload and see if I could preemptively throw the smoke bomb and avoid the guards. However, they just really instantly detect Arno, and so I moved on. I followed Belek and assassinated some guards without getting seen. However, while running, we passed the guard who proceeded to see me, so I had to reload and repeat the latter part. When I got back, I decided to follow Belek while I was on the rooftop since this would help me avoid random guards. And so with that, I was able to finish the mission unseen. Next mission is an assassination mission. Our target, Sivert. Now, since I've played this mission multiple times before, I knew that I could just rush to one of the windows and open it using lockpicks. I then managed to go down to the church grounds without being seen. I decided to do the confessional unique kill for this one since that is the safest way to assassinate Sivert without being seen. However, when I did this, I forgot that I had to assassinate another target before I could unlock the unique assassination. So I ended up reloading and made my way to the other target. Now, to kill this target unseen, all I had to do was sneak into an area and wait for him from a hay cart. When he got close, I assassinated him and no guards were alerted. With this, the confessional kill was unlocked. All I had to do now was climb back up to the church and get back to the booth. I then successfully assassinated Sivert. However, the next problem I had was the escape. While I could get out of the booth undetected, I kept getting seen whenever I ran to my escape route. Eventually, I realized that it probably was due to my low-level armor making too much noise. So I decided to crouch walk instead and was able to escape unseen. With that done, we go to the next mission, which was to locate the King of Beggars. To do this, I had to tail a Templar named Latouche. While my tailing seemed successful at first, I eventually found myself being seen by guards. I then decided to just climb up the area and follow Latouche through the rooftops. But here, I learned that there are 2 guards patrolling the roofs. So I had to reload and take them both out while being unseen. After that, I followed Latouche into a building which had a lot of guards. I managed to find a way in and remain unseen by simply killing the guards on the rooftops one by one. With the guards taken care of, I confronted Latouche and he easily gave me the location of the King of Beggars. So the next mission was to assassinate Roy de Tunes, the King of Beggars. For this one, I wanted to sabotage the chimneys to make my future escape easier. It took a couple of tries to make sure I wasn't seen, but I eventually managed to sabotage the chimneys by killing some of the guards that patrolled the area while not being seen. With the chimneys sabotage, I made my way to the entrance of the sewers. I had to use the cherry bomb to distract enemies since my timing was off and they are now just chilling by the entrance. For the next part where there are 3 guards in a very close area, I simply used my ghost stealth knowledge to get past them easily without being seen or killing them. With this done, I made my way to the sewers unseen by just stealth killing most enemies in my way. Now the run was not perfect and I did end up reloading more than a couple of times when the guards saw me. I also want to note that this guy had a bug pathing which caused him to collide with his post. This bug allowed me to get more than the time I needed to climb up and get to the objective. Just wanted to mention that. After passing those guards, I am now in the area where the target is. I had to use a cherry bomb to make my way to one of the sewer sections undetected. I also found the Latouche just before the room where the target was. Now, to kill the target unseen was a bit challenging. I tried to do my typical ghost run path where I passed the sniper on top of the room, but this time I needed to kill him to avoid being seen. However, the Tunes was able to spot me from across the room. This then led me to experiment a bit and fooled around with the guards to find the best route. I ended up with this strategy. First, I kill the sniper, then head back down. I make my way to the entrance of the middle room and kill the guard there. Then, I carefully make my way to the base of where my target was. I use the phantom blade to shoot him and kill him from afar without being seen. With those guys down, there was no one guarding my target, so I made my way up and inevitably took his life from him. For the escape, I simply went to the area behind the target and opened the gate. Going down here leads me to the escape route. I used a smoke bomb to blind 2 guards near the entrance and I just ran into the exit. Because I sabotaged the chimney a few minutes ago, this area is now filled with smoke, so the enemies could not see me even at a close distance. This allowed me to safely escape the sewers undetected. I then met with the Marquis, who gave me a clue on who killed the Lacer. This led me to look for their man in this mansion. Getting in and completing the mission was actually easy. I simply made my way through the roof and went to the back side of the mansion. Here, I found an open window which leads directly to the door I needed to get into. So I simply waited for the guards to look away and entered the window. Now I could have killed these guards for easy access, but I decided to lockpick some doors and get into the room without killing them but also remaining unseen. I then met their man who I helped escape from the mansion. Now there are a lot of enemies in the next area and I had to kill them all. So what I did was use the berserk shot to make the enemies fight each other. I waited until the chaos settled down and killed the survivors. However, I did get seen a few times which led me to reload and retry this part again. This time, I just stealth killed the first few guards I saw. Then used the berserk shot on the ones below and killed the survivors again. Thankfully, this time, the guards in the last room also died because of the berserk effect. The next thing I had to do was kill the snipers outside the mansion. To do this unseen, I simply exited the building and made my way behind them. I used my last phantom blade on one of the snipers and air assassinated the second one. Now, there will be another set of guards who will be holding your man hostage, but I now have no more phantom blades. Thankfully, there was a shop nearby and I managed to refill my items. I then proceed to kill the guards while remaining unseen by using the phantom blade. Your man killed the last guy and I had to follow him outside. I decided to follow him while I was on the rooftops just to avoid random guards seeing me. And that ends that mission. The next mission has Arno infiltrating a building. Now, while it was easy to get in using the front entrance, getting in unseen through there was difficult because of guard placements. So I had to use a side entrance where I had to climb a structure and into some scaffolding. Now, it did take a couple of tries since I would sometimes get spotted and sometimes Arno would just move weirdly which would cause the guards to see us. But eventually, I managed to get in by killing the sniper and one of the nearby guards. I then climbed over this barrel and into the ladder leading to the objective. Arno then decides to burn it all down to destroy the supplies and weaken the Templars. However, this led us to escape a fiery death by doing some parkour stuff. Since all guards have left the building, all I really had to do here was climb and there was no threat of being seen. So let's move on to the next mission. This one is about assassinating Lafreniere, the supposed new Templar Grand Master. The first part was easy since all I had to do was wait somewhere. But before that, I decided to knock out this guy and grab some plants to know Lafreniere's location and find the best spot to assassinate him unseen. However, this ended up as a waste of time since I realized that I could not assassinate him unseen since he was with 2 guards and they would see me if I assassinate him from my hiding spot. So I had to borrow a ghosting trick from Mr. Altair's stealth. To do this, I first had to kill a few guards since I needed some room to safely and easily do this. Then I had to knock out this guy as he would be our bait. Next, I needed to wait for Lafreniere and friends to walk to the knocked out guy and then throw a cherry bomb. This will distract them and cause them to look the other way. This gives me a window of opportunity to assassinate the target without being seen. For the escape, I simply climbed to the nearby roof, killed this guard to make sure I'm unseen, and then exited the area without anyone seeing me. I then headed back to the Brotherhood who scolded me for killing Lafreniere, who was not an official target. To redeem myself, I went to my next mission where I had to find Latouche again to learn more about Templar plots. To infiltrate the building, I simply made my way around it where I eventually found an open window that led straight to the objective. I did have to sneak my way in since there were guards near the window, but there was not really any challenge there. I then had to follow Latouche. However, I did end up being seen by some guards which caused me to reload more than a few times. Eventually, I just stealth killed the guards in my way so I could safely follow Latouche. I then eavesdropped on a Templar meeting where I learned that they planned to kill Elise. After that, all I had to do was escape. To leave the basement unseen, I had to use a cherry bomb to distract the guards that spawned near me. Then for the rest of the way out, I just stealth killed enemies and had no problem getting out. After that mission, we then head to where Elise is to prevent her from being assassinated. I was able to save Elise unseen by just using my phantom blade and sniping the enemies from afar. Eventually, we had to run which led to an encounter with these guards. However, I noticed that the guards did not see me at first and only got the alert status after a few seconds into the fight. So I decided to reload and use a smoke bomb to prevent them from seeing me. I then used the phantom blade to kill them unseen and let Elise deal with the final guard. Next objective was to escape the maze, which was simple to do. I only had to kill a couple of guards on the way. In the next part, I had to do some more stealth kills. Fortunately, I was able to do them unseen. However, I am now out of phantom blades. So for this one, I had to use the berserk shot to stun him and then do an air assassination. For the rest, I used a smoke bomb and was able to assassinate them unseen. Then to deal with some snipers, I simply climbed on the rooftops and was able to use my pistol and kill them without being seen or alerting other guards. I don't know if this was a bug or something, but I'll take it. The last part of this mission was a force detection section where I had really no way of avoiding being seen, so we can skip talking about that. I then took Elise to the Brotherhood hideout to ask for help from the assassins. Eventually, this led us to investigate their man's workshop, which then led to an ambush. Now, I did get seen at first when trying to reverse ambush the enemies, but after reloading, I simply killed one of them preemptively and used the phantom blade for the rest. The next part had us kill snipers on the rooftops. Now, this one was a tiny bit challenging since shooting the snipers can cause them to see us. So what I did was throw a smoke bomb first before shooting at the snipers so they don't have visibility. This allowed me to kill the first 3 guards without problem. For the last 2, I decided to go out the side windows and assassinate them using the hidden blade. I simply climbed and made my way to the next building and entered through a window to kill them both unseen. The reason for this is because when I started this section, I only had 3 phantom blades. But because I was reloading, the game refilled my phantom blades. So for continuity's sake, I limited myself to only 3 phantom blade use. The next mission has us investigating who killed Mirabeau, the assassin mentor. In this one, there was really no sneaking involved. It only had us going from one point to another and eventually finding and killing Balak. So we can skip talking about this one as well. The next mission is an Animus related one where we had to climb the Eiffel Tower. Again, there was not much sneaking involved since there were no enemies here. All I had to do was avoid the lights and climb up. After that, the next thing we had to do was to find some papers and burn them. To do this, we had to infiltrate this mansion. It was actually easy since I was able to get inside by just running on the roof and getting to the backside of the building. Eventually, I found an open window which led straight to the next area. To get past the next area, I had to assassinate a number of enemies. I was able to assassinate them all unseen with no problem. However, this guy was actually able to spot me after I assassinated one of his friends. So I reloaded and decided to wait for him to move away before I killed the other guy. I did more stealth kills on the way to the objective and eventually found myself eye to eye with Napoleon. We quickly became friends, and to celebrate it, I had to endure an open combat scenario where I am now seen by enemies. After Napoleon killed the last guy, we then escaped and that ended that mission. In the next one, I now had to kill Rui. For this mission, I also decided to borrow another ghosting trick from Mr. Altair's stealth. I entered the prison by super jumping from a nearby building into one of the protruding towers of the prison. This led me straight to where Rui was. Now to perform the magic trick, I had to take cover in this spot and throw a cherry bomb to lure Rui out. Then I used another cherry bomb to lure him closer to me. While the other guards leave to go back to their post, Rui decides to stay, allowing me to assassinate him without being seen. I then made an easy escape by climbing down the wall of the prison. For the next mission, it had us chasing a boat along the river. Now this was actually easy, but I did get spotted since there were a couple of guards posted along the route. For one of the guys, I simply looked for another route to take to remain unseen. For the other guy, I threw a smoke bomb in his face to avoid being seen. Eventually, I found myself in a dock where I had to steal some orders from a guard. I also got spotted a couple of times here, which forced me to reload. What I ended up doing was climbing up the streets. However, I had to keep close to a building since some guards in the area could spot me if I ran around the streets. To steal the orders unseen, I just decided to stealth kill most of the guards in my way. I also killed the guy carrying the papers as well as a nearby guard who tried investigating his body. To escape, I simply had to climb back up the streets into the rooftops and away from the area. The next mission is to assassinate Marie. I hated this mission since it took me more than a couple of hours to figure out. You see, Marie is surrounded by guards and killing her would just instantly alert every guard in the vicinity. But after a couple of experiments, I found the best way to assassinate her unseen. You see, if you use a berserk shot to make a guard hostile, Marie will run into a room which will make her easier to assassinate. But to make sure I was unseen, I had to do some preparations. I had to kill the snipers and other guards in the upper level to make it easy for me to run around. Next, I had to assassinate all the guards around and inside the room where Marie will run to. This is to make sure that it will only be her in that room, making the stealth kill easy. Furthermore, I also had to kill a couple of guards outside where my escape route will be. So when all of that was set, I used the berserk shot to make Marie run away. I then proceeded to make my way into the room and assassinated her. To escape, I had to make sure that I kept on sprinting, otherwise some guards running to the room would be able to spot me. Now, since I've killed the guards outside, I was able to escape and finish the mission unseen. For the next bit, it was just another chase mission that did not include any stealth. We just had to run through rooftops and chase an air balloon, so let's skip that. Fast forward, we are now aiming to assassinate La Pelletier. This mission was actually a very simple one. All I had to do was enter the area via an open window. I assassinated a few guards on the way to the target to make my escape easy as well. Now, to assassinate the targets unseen, I stole some poisoned wine. Luckily, I was able to steal the wine and get back to the building without being seen. Oh, and I also assassinated this guy to make sure he doesn't accidentally see me. I then used the disguise skill to enter the room unseen and place the poisoned wine on the table. Now, to let things unfold, I had to reposition. To do this, I threw a cherry bomb into the back of the room to distract the guards and avoid their line of sight. I was then able to go to the back room and wait for my target there. Not long after, the target goes to the back room and it would seem that the poison has blinded him since he didn't acknowledge me. I then assassinated him. For my escape, I simply used the disguise skill again to safely cross the room. I just then made my way back to the open window where I entered and left the area by jumping out. For the next mission, it was supposed to be to assassinate their man and end the whole Templar plot. But this is not the case, and there is actually very little stealth stuff in this mission. Basically, I just entered the area using the disguise skill to remain unseen. I then initiated a cutscene where I ended up in open combat and had to protect Elise. There was really no stealth opportunity during this time, and so we can skip this. Arno and Elise had an argument, and the next thing we know, Arno is a drunkard and has been kicked out of the Brotherhood. The next set of objectives has us controlling a drunk Arno. One of the objectives had me assassinating a few guards to remain unseen and get a barrel of wine. Then another objective had me assassinating a lot of guards in the palace to find Arno's pocket watch. This part was really not that hard. I did get spotted a few times, but it was just me being not careful. Eventually, I had to kill the gang leader. At first, I thought this was hard since there were 5 guards around him, but I realized that they had poor spatial awareness and I could kill them all one by one. And so I did. I then saw Elise, who happened to have the watch that I was looking for. Fast forward to the next mission, we now need to assassinate Latouche. Now at first I thought this mission was impossible to finish without being seen. Latouche was in the middle of a crowd and there were a lot of guards around him. Even if I killed some of the snipers and guards using smoke bombs, berserk shots, and others, I thought that one guard would eventually see me. I also thought that since I was wearing the basic Arno armor, I don't even have a lot of tools in my disposal. I had 2 berserk shots, 5 smokes, and 2 poisons. But while playing around, thinking this was the end of the run, I realized that I could use poison to kill the guards around the guillotine stand. But if you notice, I only have 2 poison clouds on me. Fortunately, there was a merchant nearby which allowed me to resupply the poisons. Now, it was tedious since I had to go back and forth to buy poisons after using only 2, but it works. So what I ended up doing was to first kill all the snipers around the area. This was a bit challenging since they would sometimes see me, but after reloading multiple times, I eventually managed to do a perfect clean run. Note also that I had to kill the guards on the ground as well, which involved using smoke bombs and the phantom blade. With most of the guards in the outer vicinity taken care of, I then proceeded with my grand plan. I positioned myself in one of the buildings where I could throw the poisons without being seen. I then just chucked the poison to the group of guards until all of them were dead. It took a while since most of the guards were higher level, but since I could refill my poisons with the help of the merchant was really no issue. When all the guards were dead, I sneaked up the stand and assassinated Latouche. I then made my easy escape and finished the mission unseen. The next mission was another Animus related one which we can skip, no problem. And now we are in the Festival of the Supreme Being. Here we have to do a couple of missions to assassinate Robespierre's integrity. First, I had to investigate a tent and find some damning evidence against him. I did get seen here during my first try, so I used the disguise skill when I retried to get in without being seen. After getting what I needed, I used the disguise skill again to leave the area. Next, I had to protect Elise from being seen herself. I failed the first time since I was too late to knock out the other guard. In my 4th try, I was successful by just simply spawn camping the first guy, then knocking out the second guy just before he sees Elise, and then using smoke bombs to knock out the 2 guards without being seen. In the next part of this mission, I now had to reverse pickpocket letters to certain individuals. First one was easy, I just had to wait for the perfect moment to approach him and then plant the letter unseen. Escaping from the area was also easy. For the second one, I kept getting seen by the 2 guards around him, so I reloaded and just used the disguise skill to plant the letter unseen. For the third guy, there was really no challenge. Even though there are guards around him, they are all blind. I planted the letter on him without problem. And with that, we finished the mission unseen. In the next mission, I had to get to Robespierre, who recently escaped from being held by the police. I talked to a couple of guards who pointed me in his direction. I then had to chase him down, which eventually got me spotted by a couple of guards. So I reloaded and just chased after him via the rooftops to avoid guards. We then see him enter a large building which we needed now to infiltrate to get to him. To do this, I just had to reach a nearby building and kill a sniper along the way. I then made it to the rooftop of the said building and looked for a way in. I found the best way in, which was an open window, and I had to kill another guard to get to it. I entered the open window and killed the guard sleeping beside the door. I was also careful since I thought the guards outside might see me. Thankfully, they can't. To get to the final door, I had to go through a room with 3 guards. Since they were all facing away from me, killing them while remaining unseen was super easy. I then got to Robespierre, who we asked nicely where their man was. Now we are on our last mission. At first, I wanted to use a route I used before for my ghosting video, however, I eventually found an easier way in. There was this building where I could do a manual jump which would allow me to reach one of the temple's towers. To safely get in without being seen, I threw a cherry bomb to make guards look away from the tower. I then proceeded to jump and then jumped again into the water. Now I had to climb the wall of this large building, but first, I made sure no one was looking at my direction before I decided to climb. Eventually, I reached the top and found their man. I then attempted to assassinate him, but he used Thunderbolt. He also disappeared, which meant that I had to follow him. To get to him, I had to get down from the tower. I did this by first killing the 2 guards below me. I then made my way down and back ejected to a church's rooftop. This now allowed me to make my way to where their man was. However, I did have to reload a couple of times since I kept getting spotted when trying to get into the basement. Eventually, I just decided to use the disguise skill to walk through the group of guards unseen. And so from here, we face off against their man. I needed to attack him 3 times, which I did with no problem. For the last hit, I used the disguise skill again to copy his face and he was stunned in shock, allowing me to kill him. Then events unfold. Elise is now gone and I am to deliver the final blow against our enemy. And so with that, we answered the question, can you beat Assassin's Creed Unity without being seen?